The emergency signal reached every corner of the galaxy within minutes. Harmony's gate station, massive and ancient, hummed with unusual activity as representatives from 47 species scrambled to reach the council chambers. 3,000 years of unbroken peace hung in the balance, threatened by words that hadn't been spoken in living memory. Ambassador Adrian Cross walked through the corridors at his usual measured pace, while aliens rushed past him in various states of panic. The human delegation consisted of only 3 people, a stark contrast to the dozens of advisors other species brought. His assistant carried a single data pad. Nothing more. The chamber filled quickly, seats arranged in concentric circles based on each species' seniority in the council. Humans occupied the outermost ring, newcomers who had joined merely 200 years ago. The Talvines sat in the inner circle, ancient members whose civilization predated most others by millennia. Talvine Ambassador Redis stood without waiting for formal recognition, his 4 arms spread wide in a gesture that silenced the murmuring crowd. The Talvine Empire hereby withdraws from all peace accords effective immediately, he announced. We declare our intention to reclaim territory stolen by the Bryn Collective. The chamber erupted. Delegates leaped to their feet. Translators struggled to keep pace with overlapping voices. The cell then representative collapsed. Medical teams rushed forward. Chaos ruled for the first time in 3 millennia. Adrian remained seated, his hands folded calmly on the table before him. A slight smile played at the corners of his mouth. The council chair, an elderly Vornith named Selectus, hammered for order. This violates every treaty, he wheezed, every sacred agreement that binds our civilization together. Sacred to you, perhaps, Redis replied. The Bryn stole dimensional fold technology from our research stations. They refused to return it or provide compensation. We have exhausted diplomatic channels. What remains is justice through strength. The Bryn delegation trembled. Their ambassador, a frail creature named Hessa, spoke with a quavering voice. We developed that technology independently. Your claims are false. We have documented proof. Lies, Redhis said flatly. You have 30 cycles to comply. Return the technology. Cede the disputed border systems. Pay reparations of 10 trillion credits. Refuse and face the consequences. Selectus turned desperately to the assembled delegates. We must intervene. The accord was created to prevent exactly this. We cannot allow one member to threaten another. Hours passed in fruitless debate. Species after species stood to condemn Talvine aggression, each speech more passionate than the last. The Talvine listened in stony silence. When the condemnations ended, Redhis simply shook his head. You've grown soft, he told the council. 3,000 years of peace made you forget that strength matters. Words mean nothing without the will to enforce them. Can any of you stop us? Will any of you try? No one answered. The truth hung heavy in the air. Most species had reduced their militaries to ceremonial levels. Defense fleets consisted of patrol boats and customs vessels. The infrastructure for war had been dismantled generations ago. Adrian watched the proceedings with growing amusement. Other delegates began to notice. Whispers spread through the chamber. Why are the humans smiling? What do they know? Why aren't they concerned? Finally, Selectus addressed the human delegation directly. Ambassador Cross, humanity has remained silent through this entire crisis. What is Earth's position? Adrian stood slowly. The chamber quieted. We abstain, he said simply. Abstain, Selectus sputtered. This threatens everything we've built, the entire foundation of galactic civilization. With respect, Adrian replied, his smile never wavering. This threatens the foundation you built. Humanity never fully bought into the notion that peace could be permanent. Gasps echoed through the chamber. Hessa leaned forward desperately. But you must help. The Talvine will destroy us. Millions will die. Perhaps, Adrian acknowledged. Perhaps not. We'll observe the situation and respond as we deem appropriate. Observe. Redis laughed. Even the humans won't defend you. Face reality. Hessa, you're alone. The debate continued for 16 more hours. Proposal after proposal failed. Economic sanctions, diplomatic isolation, appeals to ancient treaties. Nothing swayed the Talveen. Finally, exhausted and defeated, Selectus adjourned the council. Delegates filed out in small groups, talking in hushed, frightened voices. The humans walked separately. Other species gave them wide berth, unsettled by their calm demeanor. Hessa caught up to Adrian in the corridor. "Please," she begged. "You have military experience. Your species fought wars for 10,000 years before joining the Council. Help us understand what to do." Adrian stopped and looked at her with something like pity. "You want to know what to do? Prepare. The Talveen will attack exactly when they said they would. They're not bluffing, but the Council is a debate society," Adrian interrupted. "Useful for managing trade disputes and cultural exchanges. Useless for stopping someone determined to take what they want by force." "Then what's the point of any of this?" Hessa gestured at the station. Around them. "The point," Adrian said quietly, "was to create the illusion that war could be abolished. It was a nice dream, but dreams end. You're saying war is inevitable. I'm saying war was always coming. Peace isn't a natural state. It's a temporary arrangement between conflicts. You convinced yourselves otherwise because you wanted to believe it. We never forgot the truth." "What truth?" Adrian's smile widened. "That peace must be defended. That it requires strength. That the moment you disarm completely, you invite attack from those who remember how to fight. You created paradise and forgot to guard the gates." He walked away, leaving Hessa trembling in the corridor. Behind him, he heard her final question, barely whispered. "What will humanity do?" Adrian didn't turn around. "Whatever is necessary," he called back. "We always do." Back at the human delegation quarters, Adrian accessed secure channels to Earth. "Begin Phase 1, he transmitted. "Mobilize the reserve fleets. Activate all shipyard protocols. Target timeline is 90 cycles for full deployment." His assistant looked concerned. "Sir, we're really doing this. They shattered a peace they couldn't maintain," Adrian replied. "Now they'll learn what real peace requires. And yes, we're going to smile the whole time, because we tried to warn them this day would come. They just didn't want to listen." Across the galaxy, in orbital shipyards humanity had maintained despite council pressure to dismantle them. Lights began to activate. Crews reported for duty. Warships that had been classified as ceremonial started charging their weapons. The sleeping giant stirred, and humanity smiled. 30 cycles passed like a countdown to apocalypse. The Bryn scrambled to prepare defenses that hadn't existed for generations. Manufacturing plants attempted to retool for military production. Ancient weapon designs were pulled from archives. Nothing worked fast enough. Commander Rhett has kept his word. Talveen warships crossed the border at precisely the promised moment. 140 vessels, gleaming and deadly. The Bryn managed to field 37 ships. Most were converted cargo. Haulers with weapons hastily bolted to their hulls. The first battle lasted 4 hours. 23 Bryn ships were destroyed. The survivors retreated in disorder. Talveen forces advanced on the colony world of Bryn's Hope. Population: 4,000,000. Defenses: none. Orbital bombardment began at dawn. Precision strikes against industrial centers and government buildings. Redis wanted submission, not genocide. The message was clear: surrender or watch your civilization burn piece by piece. Emergency council sessions achieved nothing. Selectus pleaded for intervention. Every species expressed outrage. None offered military support. The hard truth emerged: they had no military to offer. 3,000 years of peace had left them defenseless. Then the pattern repeated. The Corvin hierarchy saw an opportunity. Old territorial disputes with the Phoenix Confederacy suddenly seemed worth pursuing. If the Talveen could ignore the Council with impunity, why couldn't others? Within 20 cycles, 3 more conflicts erupted across the galaxy. Trade routes collapsed. Economic systems that depended on peaceful exchange began to fail. Refugees flooded neutral systems. Death tolls mounted. The Council met daily, but accomplished nothing beyond documenting the disaster. Human vessels appeared at every major engagement. Small survey ships with powerful sensor arrays. They maintained position at the edge of battle zones, observing, recording, never participating when fired upon. They evaded with uncanny precision. No human ship was hit despite entering dozens of war zones. The galaxy watched humanity watch. Confusion gave way to frustration. Why won't they help? Became the most common question in council chambers. The humans offered no explanation. They simply continued their methodical observation. Rachel Ford commanded a human survey vessel near the Bryn front lines. Her ship, the Witness, hung in space while Talvine forces systematically conquered another colony. She recorded everything with detached professionalism. Hessa managed to contact the Witness directly. "Please," the Bryn ambassador begged via quantum link. "We're dying. Your technology, your expertise, we'll give you anything." Rachel listened patiently. "What are you willing to sacrifice for victory?" she asked. "Everything. Anything you want. Resources, territory, political alliance." "Then you're not desperate enough yet," Rachel replied calmly. "When you're truly desperate, you'll understand what victory costs. Call us then." The transmission ended. Hessa wept in frustration. Around her, another world fell to Talvine occupation. 40 cycles into the crisis, 7 separate wars raged. Civilian casualties exceeded 10 million. The Council attempted to form a peacekeeping force. 12 species volunteered ships. The assembled fleet consisted of patrol boats, science vessels, and one outdated destroyer. Their first deployment ended in catastrophe. The untrained force tried to impose a ceasefire between Corvin and Phoenix fleets. Both sides opened fire on the peacekeepers. 73 council ships were destroyed in minutes. The survivors fled. No second attempt was made. Human intelligence networks observed it all. Every battle, every tactical decision, every strategic blunder. Analysts cataloged the data with clinical precision. Patterns emerged. The warring species fought like they were reenacting ancient history. No innovation, no adaptation, just outdated doctrines. Executed poorly. They've forgotten how to fight. One analyst reported to Earth Command. 3 millennia of peace erased institutional knowledge. They're making mistakes our ancestors stopped making 10,000 years ago. "Good," came the reply. "Let them exhaust themselves. Our timeline remains unchanged." 15 conflicts now. The economic crisis deepened. Starvation began on worlds cut off from trade. Plague spread through refugee camps. The death toll approached 30 million. Still the Council debated and accomplished nothing. Then human sensor networks detected massive energy signatures from Earth space. Shipyards that had been ceremonial burned with sudden activity. Power consumption spiked to wartime levels. Construction that had seemed dormant suddenly accelerated. Admiral David Reeves oversaw operations from Earth Orbital Command. "Status report," he demanded. 200 warships at 90% combat readiness. His operations officer replied. "Another 50 in. Final stages. Support vessels at full capacity. Marines trained and equipped." "We're ready, sir." Reeves nodded. He opened a channel that would broadcast to every council member, every government, every military command in the galaxy. His face appeared on millions of screens simultaneously. "This is Admiral David Reeves, commanding officer of the Human Defense Fleet," he began. His tone was casual, almost friendly. "For the past 90 cycles, humanity has observed your conflicts with great interest. We've studied your tactics, analyzed your capabilities, and assessed your commitment to peace." He paused, letting the silence stretch. "We've concluded our observation period. Humanity is now ready to participate in galactic affairs. Our fleets are deploying as I speak. We will arrive at each conflict zone within the next 10 cycles." Another pause. His smile was the same one Adrian had worn in council chambers. "To the Talvine Empire. Cease all hostile operations immediately. To the Corvin, Phoenix, and all other combatants. Stand down your forces. To the Bryn and other victims of aggression. Relief is coming. This is not a request," Reeves continued. "This is not subject to council vote or debate. This is a statement of fact. The war's end now. Any species that continues hostilities after our arrival will face consequences. We are not asking for your cooperation. We are informing you of new reality." The transmission ended. Across the galaxy, Reaction was immediate: terror among the aggressors, hope among the victims, confusion everywhere. What did humanity intend? What could they possibly do against combined fleets numbering in the thousands? Redis watched the transmission from his flagship. He laughed. Arrogant primates. They think 200 ships can dictate terms to the galaxy. We'll crush them first, then finish the Bryn. He ordered his forces to continue operations. Other species made similar decisions. If humanity wanted to interfere, they would learn. The price of arrogance. Human battle groups emerged from hyperspace at 15 different locations. Sleek warships unlike anything the galaxy had seen. Not massive dreadnoughts, but fast, precise strike craft. Each group numbered fewer than 20 vessels. They moved with coordinated purpose toward their assigned conflicts. At Bryn's Hope, 12 human ships arrived, while Talvine forces were bombarding the surface. The humans broadcast on all frequencies. Cease fire immediately. This is your only warning. Red has ignored the demand. He had 80 ships in system. What could 12 do? He ordered continued bombardment. The human response took 30 seconds. Precision fire disabled the Talvine flagship. Not destroyed. Every system simply stopped working. Shields, weapons, engines, communications. The massive vessel went dark and dead in space. Not a single casualty. Just perfect. Surgical neutralization. Next ship that fires gets the same treatment. The human commander transmitted. Every Talvine vessel stopped firing. Red has found himself floating powerless while human ships positioned themselves between his fleet and the planet. The bombardment was over. The war had just changed completely. Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out. Human forces arrived, issued warnings, demonstrated overwhelming capability. Conflicts froze in place. Humanity had stopped smiling. Now they were enforcing. Commander Patricia Hoffman watched the tactical display with satisfaction. Her battle group had positioned itself between the Corvin and Phoenix fleets. Both sides maintained an uneasy standoff, weapons charged, but no one willing to fire first. Corvin flagship is hailing us, her communications officer reported. Put them through. The Corvin commander appeared on screen, all bristling scales and barely contained fury. You have no authority here, human. This conflict predates your species first. Ventures into space. Withdraw or be destroyed. Patricia smiled. It was the same smile every human seemed to wear these days. I'm transmitting coordinates to your navigation officer. Take your fleet there and await further instructions. You have 10 minutes to comply. And if we refuse, then I demonstrate why compliance isn't optional. The Corvin commander cut the transmission. Patricia waited. She knew what came next. Pride always demanded a demonstration. The Corvin couldn't back down. Without testing human resolve. 8 minutes later, the Corvin flagship opened fire. One shot, supposedly a warning. The particle beam lands toward Patricia's ship. Point defense systems intercepted it effortlessly. Return fire was instantaneous. The Corvin flagship went dark. Every system disabled in a cascade of precisely targeted strikes. 9 minutes, 40 seconds, Patricia noted. Not bad. They usually wait the full 10. Broadcast to all Corvin vessels. Next ship that fires will be treated the same. And the one after that. And every single one until you run out of ships or stupidity. Whichever comes first. The Corvin fleet retreated to the designated coordinates. The Phoenix, watching closely, did the same without needing a demonstration. Patricia marked it in her report. Species that learned from others' mistakes would receive lighter treatment. Similar engagements occurred across all 15 conflict zones. Some species surrendered immediately after seeing footage of disabled Talvine ships. Others required direct demonstration. The Selden Confederacy lost 42 vessels before their commander accepted reality. Every engagement ended the same way. Human victory. 0 human casualties. Complete control established. The galaxy reeled from the implications. 6 species formed what they called the Independence Alliance. We will not submit to human tyranny. Their joint declaration proclaimed, better to die free than live under alien occupation. The Alliance combined their fleets, 412 ships from 6 different species. They planned an ambush. Human supply convoys moving between battle groups seemed vulnerable. Only light escorts. The Alliance believed numbers would overwhelm precision. Captain Robert Kim commanded the convoy, 5 transport ships carrying supplies and relief aid for liberated worlds. 2 escort frigates provided protection. Standard pattern. The Alliance tracked them for 3 days, waiting for the perfect moment. The ambush site was a debris field near an old mining station, perfect for concealing a large fleet. The convoy approached on schedule. Alliance ships powered up weapons. 400 targets locked onto 5 transports. Robert ordered his convoy to full stop. The transports didn't run, didn't evade, just stopped in place like they were inviting attack. All ships halt. The Alliance commander ordered, "Something's wrong. This is too easy." But other commanders had already committed. Weapons fire erupted from concealed positions. Thousands of missiles and energy beams converged on the convoy. Surely nothing could survive such overwhelming firepower. The escorts activated defensive grids that expanded to cover all 5 transports. Every single incoming shot was intercepted. Advanced point defense systems tracked and eliminated threats with mechanical precision. Not one hit landed. Impossible. The Alliance commander whispered. Robert's voice came over all channels. You were warned. Multiple times, in multiple ways. Yet here you are, attacking a relief convoy. We gave you every chance to choose peace. The escort frigates rotated, weapon ports opened. This is your final opportunity. Power down and surrender, or we will disable every single ship in this formation. We outnumber them 200 to 1, an Alliance captain protested. They're bluffing, then test the bluff, Robert replied calmly. Fire one more shot. See what happens. Pride and desperation made the decision. The Alliance fleet opened fire with everything they had. The response was surgical devastation. Human weapons spoke with cold precision. Each shot targeted specific systems. Shields, weapons, engines, power cores. Not to destroy, but to disable. 45 minutes later, 412 Alliance ships drifted powerless. Crews alive, ships intact, but completely helpless. Human boarding parties began systematic capture of commanders. Document everything, Robert ordered. War. Crimes Tribunal will want complete evidence. The trials began on neutral stations. Captured commanders faced justice for atrocities committed during the conflicts. Human investigators presented evidence gathered during the observation period. Recordings of orbital bombardments, civilian massacres, deliberate targeting of hospitals and schools. Species that thought they'd fought honorably discovered otherwise. The Talveen commander who claimed he only targeted military installations watched. Footage of his ships destroying refugee transports. He had no defense, no explanation. Sentences were proportional and consistent. Commanders who had minimized civilian casualties received lighter punishment. Those who had deliberately targeted civilians faced life imprisonment. The galaxy learned that human justice was thorough and impartial. Disarmament protocols began. Human inspection teams visited every military installation in occupied territory. Weapons cataloged. Production facilities repurposed. Warships decommissioned or converted to civilian use. The process was methodical and impossible to evade. The Cell-then Confederacy tried to hide weapons in civilian infrastructure. Schools, hospitals, residential districts. They believed humans wouldn't risk civilian casualties to find hidden arsenals. They were wrong. Captain Lisa Wong commanded the occupation force. Surgical strikes on marked locations, she ordered. 0 civilian tolerance. If you're not certain you can hit the target without collateral damage, don't fire. Her weapons officers were the best. Humanity had. Strikes landed with pinpoint accuracy. Hidden bunkers destroyed. Weapon caches eliminated. Not a single civilian casualty despite targets embedded in population centers. The Cell then watched in horror as humans demonstrated precision that made hiding impossible. They knew where everything was, the Cell then general admitted. All along, every cache, every hidden facility. They'd mapped it all during their observation period. Resistance movements formed, not military, but political. Underground networks demanding human withdrawal. Propaganda spread across neutral worlds. Humans are the new oppressors. They enforce peace at gunpoint. trading one tyranny for another. Councillor Davos became the resistance leader, a Selvan politician with genuine charisma. Peace imposed by force isn't peace, he proclaimed. It's occupation. We must resist non-violently. Make human rule unsustainable. Millions gathered in cities across occupied worlds. Peaceful protests, civil disobedience, refusal to cooperate with human administrators. Davos believed humanity wouldn't suppress peaceful resistance. He was partially right. Humans didn't suppress the protests. They ignored them. Occupation forces continued their work regardless. Disarmament proceeded on schedule. War crimes trials continued. Human administrators simply worked around the protests. Then a Selvan military faction attempted a coup. Hardliners who believed they could seize hidden weapons and fight. They launched surprise attacks on human positions, tried to capture command centers, free imprisoned commanders. Every attack was intercepted before it reached targets. Every conspirator arrested within hours. The coup collapsed so quickly that most Selvan citizens didn't even know it had been attempted. Davos was brought to Admiral Reeves' flagship. He expected imprisonment or execution. Instead, he was offered a chair and coffee. Sit, Reeves said gently. We need to talk. I won't cooperate with occupation, Davos stated firmly. I'm not asking you to, Reeves replied. I'm asking you to look at data, numbers, facts, then decide if resistance is worth the cost. He displayed casualty figures. 30 million dead in 6 months of warfare. Projections showing hundreds of millions more if conflicts had continued. Bryn losses alone would have exceeded 15 million within a year. Your species lost 2 million people in 3 months of fighting. Reeves continued. We stopped that. Yes, at the cost of your autonomy. But those 2 million are alive because we intervened. Davos stared at the numbers. You're saying the ends justify the means. I'm saying dead people can't be free. Reeves answered. You can argue about sovereignty with corpses if you want. I prefer live citizens to dead patriots. So we should thank you for conquering us. No, you should understand why we did it, and consider whether you're ready for what you claim to want. Reeves leaned forward. We're not keeping you occupied forever. This isn't colonization. It's education. We're teaching you something you forgot, that peace requires strength, that sovereignty means responsibility, that freedom costs eternal vigilance. And when will you decide we've learned enough? Davos challenged. When you prove you have? Reeves smiled. Until then, we'll enforce the peace you couldn't maintain. Because we're better at both war and peace than any species in this galaxy. And you're going to learn why. 8 months after the interventions began, resistance cells operated on 40 different worlds, coordinated through encrypted channels, funded by sympathetic governments in neutral space, led by charismatic figures like Davos who genuinely believed in their cause. Human intelligence networks infiltrated every single cell during their formation. Agent-designate Carlos Martinez sat in a resistance planning meeting on Selden Prime, his cover identity perfect. Around him, earnest believers plotted symbolic strikes against human facilities. None of them suspected he was transmitting their plans in real time. Simultaneous demonstrations across all occupied worlds, the cell leader proposed, will overwhelm their ability to respond, force them to choose between mass arrests or backing down. Carlos nodded thoughtfully while his neural implant recorded everything. Similar meetings occurred on 39 other worlds, all monitored, all documented. Humans waited patiently for the resistance to commit to a course of action. The day came. Resistance cells activated simultaneously. Millions poured into streets, surrounded human facilities, demanded withdrawal. The coordination was impressive, the execution flawless. For about 2 hours, then human forces moved with surgical precision, not against protesters but against leadership. Carlos and hundreds of agents like him revealed themselves. Resistance leaders found themselves surrounded by people they'd trusted for months. Arrests happened so smoothly that most protesters didn't realize their movement had been decapitated. Davos watched from his apartment as agents arrived. He'd expected this eventually. What surprised him was that they'd waited so long. You knew all along, he said as they escorted him to transport. Since the beginning, the lead agent confirmed. We could have arrested you 8 months ago, but we wanted to see how far you'd go, what you'd do, whether you'd resort to violence. We remained peaceful. Yes, that's why you're being arrested instead of tried for terrorism. Peaceful resistance to occupation is annoying, but not criminal. We respect the principle even if we can't allow the practice. Davos was taken to a human vessel, not a prison ship, but a diplomatic courier. Admiral Reeves waited in a comfortable conference room. "Counselor," he greeted. "Thank you for coming. I didn't have much choice." "You always have choices. You've made consistently non-violent ones. I appreciate that." Reeves gestured to a seat. "Now I'm going to offer you another choice." He activated a display showing the galaxy. Human forces marked in blue, occupied territories in amber, free space in green. We're not here to conquer. We're here to teach. The lesson is almost complete. Now we need teachers who understand both perspectives. "You want me to collaborate," Davos said coldly. "I want you to help build something better than what you had before. The old council failed. Peace without strength is fantasy, but occupation without purpose is tyranny. We need a middle path." Reeves pulled up economic data. Trade volumes increased 400%. Poverty decreased 60%. Healthcare access expanded to previously underserved regions. Human occupation brought stability. That stability enabled prosperity. People are better fed, healthier, safer than they were under the old system. But not free. Define freedom, Reeves challenged. Is it freedom to choose war, to watch your neighbor species burn, to stand by while atrocities happen because intervention violates sovereignty? Your old freedom produced 30 million corpses in 6 months. Davos had no answer. The numbers were undeniable. Lives saved, suffering prevented, but at the cost of autonomy. The moral calculation made his head hurt. "Help us transition this," Reeves continued. "From occupation to partnership. You have credibility with your people. Use it to build something that doesn't require human military presence to maintain peace. And if I refuse, then you go home. We'll find someone else, but you'll have to watch from the sidelines while others shape your species' future. Is that really what you want?" Davos stared at the data for a long time. Finally, he asked, "What exactly would you want me to do?" Reeves smiled. "First, stop calling it occupation. Start calling it transition. Second, work with us to establish new security frameworks that don't depend solely on human enforcement. Third, help design educational programs so future generations understand why peace requires eternal vigilance. You want me to teach our children to be like you. I want you to teach them why we had to intervene, so they never need us to again." Economic transformation continued across occupied space. Human merchants arrived with trade agreements and reconstruction contracts. The terms were surprisingly fair, not exploitative, but genuinely aimed at rebuilding. Worlds devastated by conflict received aid and investment, but everything came with conditions: transparency requirements, anti-corruption measures, democratic governance standards. Species could accept human help or stand alone. Most accepted. The benefits were too significant to refuse. Opposition called it economic colonization. Supporters called it practical partnership. Reality lay somewhere between. Human influence grew not through force, but through dependence on human markets, human technology, human expertise. The Galactic Council reconvened for the first time in 8 months. All species present. Humans attended via holographic projection. Adrian Cross represented Earth, the same smile he'd worn on the first day. Selectus opened the session. "We must address the human military presence throughout formerly sovereign space. This body demand a vote on the legitimacy of these interventions." Adrian's hologram stood. "Vote on whatever you want. We stopped asking permission when you proved incapable of maintaining the peace. You claim to value. You cannot simply ignore the council," Selectus protested. "Can't we?" Adrian gestured to the assembled delegates. "You represent governments that failed, a system that collapsed at the first real test. Why should we defer to failure?" A Bryn delegate stood. "Because you're establishing dictatorship, peace through tyranny." Interesting perspective from someone whose species would be extinct without our intervention, Adrian replied mildly. "How many Bryn are alive today? Who would be dead if we'd respected your sovereignty?" The delegate had no answer. Everyone knew the number. 2 million. Minimum. Adrian continued. We're not your enemies. We're not even your rulers. We're your teachers. The lesson is, peace requires strength. Sovereignty requires responsibility. Freedom costs eternal vigilance. You forgot all three. We're making sure you remember. For how long? Demanded a Phoenix representative. How long will you occupy us? Until you don't need occupation anymore, Adrian stated. Could be 5 years. Could be 50. Depends entirely on how fast you learn. Learn what exactly? That the old way failed. That symbolic peace without enforcement mechanisms was always doomed. That preventing war requires being ready for war. That freedom without responsibility is just chaos waiting to happen. He paused, letting his words sink in. We're willing to work with you, partner with you, eventually step back and let you govern yourselves again. But it will be on terms that ensure this never happens again. Selectus slumped in his chair. The fight had gone out of him. What are your terms? New security architecture, mandatory defense capabilities, economic integration, educational reforms, transparency in governance, and most importantly, acceptance that peace is not a natural state, but a maintained condition requiring constant work. You're remaking the entire galactic order. Yes, Adrian agreed, because the old order shattered in 6 months. This time, we'll build something that lasts, with your cooperation or despite your resistance. Choose wisely. The vote was called anyway, purely symbolic. 40 species voted to demand human withdrawal. 6 abstained. 1, the Bryn, voted to request human presence continue. Adrian watched the tally, noted and ignored. We'll revisit this in 10 years. See if your opinion changes. Until then, enjoy the peace we're providing. Free of charge, accept your pride. His hologram vanished. The council sat in stunned silence. They'd voted. Their vote meant nothing. The new reality was clear. Humanity didn't ask anymore. They told, and the galaxy was learning to listen. 20 years changes everything. The young adults of occupied space had no memory of the wars. They grew up in an era of unprecedented prosperity and stability. Human oversight was simply how things worked, like gravity or trade routes. Lieutenant Talia of the Bryn served in the Galactic Defense Force, third-generation officer. Her grandmother died in the Talvine bombardment. Her parents survived only because humans intervened. She wore the GDF uniform with pride, not resentment. The Defense Force was humanity's compromise. Multinational military under human command structure. Every species contributed forces, token numbers for most, but they trained together, learned together, bled together in exercises designed to be brutal. Again, her human instructor barked, faster. Your response time is garbage. The enemy won't wait while you debate tactics. Talia and her mixed-species squad ran the simulation for the 8th time. Urban combat scenario. Civilian heavy environment. They'd failed 7 times. Too slow, too cautious, too worried about collateral damage. 8th attempt succeeded. Barely. Hostages rescued. Civilians protected. Enemies neutralized. Instructor nodded grudgingly. Better. Still sloppy, but better. Tomorrow we run it in 0 gravity. Dismissed. Talia collapsed in the barracks. Her squad mates from 6 different species joined her. Humans are insane. A cell-then private complained. No species trains this hard. No species needs to anymore, Talia replied. Humans do it for us. That's the deal. Still seems unfair. Unfair that we're alive, Talia challenged. That we're not fighting each other, that we can actually cooperate. Yeah, terrible deal. The private had no comeback. None of them did. The younger generation understood something their elders struggled with. The old system had failed. This one worked. Meanwhile, in council chambers, Davos addressed the assembly. 20 years of working with humans had aged him. Gray streaked his scales, but his voice remained strong. I propose a referendum. 10 systems in the Rimward sector. Full autonomy for 5 years. Let us prove we've learned. Murmurs filled the chamber. Admiral Reeves, now elderly but still sharp, listened from the human delegation. He'd expected this. Actually planned for it. You want to test whether you need us anymore, Reeves said. Fair enough, but understand the terms. Full autonomy means full responsibility. If conflict erupts, we won't intervene immediately. You'll have to handle it yourselves. We understand, Davos confirmed. That's the point. We can't remain children forever. The vote was close. Many species feared a return to chaos, but eventually it passed. Reward sector would be humanity's test case. Succeed and autonomy expands. Fail and it proves oversight's still necessary. Year 1 of the pilot program exceeded expectations. For species in 10 systems cooperated smoothly. Trade flourished. Minor disputes were resolved through negotiation. Human observation posts monitored from the periphery, but never intervened. Year 2 maintained the progress. Joint infrastructure projects, cultural exchanges, even preliminary talks about a regional defense pact. Hope built that autonomy could work. Year 3 brought the crisis. Survey teams discovered massive deposits of rare elements in a nebula claimed by both the Phoenix and Corvin. Historical territorial disputes, worth trillions of credits. Tension escalated rapidly. Both species began military build-ups, nothing approaching wartime levels but concerning. Politicians postured. Media inflamed public opinion. The pattern was familiar, terrifyingly familiar. Talia watched from the observation post. Her assignment after graduating from GDF Academy. Should we inform Earth Command? Her fellow officer asked. Protocol says we observe only unless violence occurs. Talia reminded him. They need to handle this themselves. Months of tension. Diplomatic meetings that went nowhere. Fleet movements. Aggressive posturing. The galaxy held its breath. This was the moment. Proof that species could resist old patterns or confirmation that human oversight remained essential. Talia received an encrypted message. Not from human command. From Phoenix and Corvin military officers she trained with. Can we talk? Unofficial. Off the record. She agreed to meet at a neutral station. 6 officers. All her former squad mates from GDF training. All now serving in their respective species forces. All terrified of repeating history. Our governments are insane, the Corvin officers said bluntly. They're going to start a war over rocks in space. Politicians need to show strength, the Phoenix officer agreed. Neither side can back down without looking weak. So don't make it about backing down, Talia suggested. Make it about being smart. Show your commanders the war game projections. What happens if you fight? They ran the scenarios. Both sides suffered heavy casualties. Resources destroyed in the fighting. Economic devastation. Political instability. All for a prize neither could enjoy while fighting over it. Now show them the alternative, Talia continued. Joint development. Shared profits. Mutual security. Which outcome actually serves your species' interests? The officers took the analysis to their chains of command. Bypassed politicians entirely. Military to military communication, professional assessment untainted by political considerations. Both fleets stood down. Commanders requested neutral arbitration. Not from humans, but from the Council. The old mechanisms still worked if people chose to use them. The Council mediated successfully. Territory shared under joint development agreement. Both species gained more from cooperation than either could have won through conflict. Crisis resolved. No human intervention required. Admiral Reeves watched the resolution with satisfaction. They did it, his chief of staff observed. Actually solved it themselves. They did, Reeves agreed. Took them 20 years, but they finally remembered how. Time to expand the program. The reward sector success story spread. Other regions requested similar autonomy. Humans approved cautiously. 5-year trials. Strict monitoring. Clear intervention triggers. But genuine opportunity to prove capability. Not every test succeeded. 2 systems required brief human intervention when old hatreds flared, but they learned, adjusted, tried again. The pattern was clear. Species could maintain peace if they remained vigilant. 30-year timeline established for complete transition, gradual reduction of human military presence, transfer of security responsibilities. Humans remaining as partners rather than overlords. The occupation had an end date. Adrian Cross, retired for a decade, returned for one final council address. Ancient now, but mind still sharp. You asked why we smiled when war came, he began. We smiled because we knew something you'd forgotten. War is temporary. Peace is temporary. What matters is whether you're ready for both. You weren't. We were. That's why we smiled. But we also knew you could learn, that this disaster could be the lesson you needed, that enforced peace could become chosen peace if we gave you time and guidance. He paused, looking around the chamber. You're learning, slowly, painfully, but genuinely. In another generation, you won't need us standing over you. You'll maintain peace because you understand its value and its cost. That's when we'll finally stop smiling. Adrian concluded, when peace is boring again, when it's normal, when the idea of war seems absurd to you, when that day comes, our job is done. Monument on Harmony's Gate, Black Stone Wall, 47 million names. Every casualty of the 6-month wars. Below it, new inscription. They died because we forgot. We remember, so they're never forgotten. Peace demands eternal vigilance. May we never forget again. Young cadets from every species stood before it, human and alien together, learning the same lesson, training for a peace they'd never break. Talia commanded the honor guard, her squad perfectly synchronized. Different species, one purpose, protecting a peace they'd learned to value. Instructor approached, same one from 20 years ago. Better, he said. Much better. The generation actually gets it. Our parents learned the hard way, Talia replied. We learned from their mistakes. Isn't that what you wanted? It is. Congratulations. You've graduated from our oversight to partnership. Try not to mess it up. We won't, Talia promised. We remember the cost of forgetting. Across the galaxy, humanity began the long withdrawal. Not abandonment. Transition from enforcers to advisors, from overlords to partners. The smiles remained, but now they were proud. Not knowing, not superior, just pleased. They'd done the impossible, saved a galaxy from itself, and taught it to save itself next time. The lesson was complete. And finally, after 20 years, humanity stopped smiling quite so much. There was nothing to prove anymore, just peace to maintain together.